Greetings and welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. We are talking about uranium today. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. I'm Rob down here in the basement along with my sidekick who resides in the basement, and that would be Galen, who's just happy as hell to be here, of course. Looking up at those in the penthouse, that would be Vishal directly above. And in the far corner, boy, just a way more pleasing, charming, and delightful alternative to what's usually sitting up there. This is Fabi Lara, all the way from Portugal. How are you?
Hey, I am doing great. How are you, Rob?
It's great to have you and your expertise and resources and uranium and
Thank you.
such. And we're going to hear about some of that in moments, but we're going to start with Vishal in a second because we're talking about three companies, a little mini sector today. Searchlight Resources, which is SCLT on the venture exchange under Stephen Wallace. Fortune Bay out of Halifax, which is FOR on the venture. Dale Varan, I believe, if you say that correctly. And enCore Energy, it's an American company based in Texas. EU on the venture exchange under Paul Goranson. So tee us up there, Mr. Vishal. What do you got?
For sure, Rob. So stock markets have been falling today. You know, there's a bit of a green day, but as you can see here, uranium also has been dropping a little bit here in recent days. We'll talk about the charts in just a second, but I'm taking this time to look at some companies or juniors where I think, we can see a nice supportive bounce. And we'll take a look, as I said, at the uranium chart a bit later. But let's start with Searchlight, and we're going to go from smallest market cap to, largest market cap, right? So Searchlight, a bit more of an early stage company with a property or a couple of uranium properties in Saskatchewan. They are, in fact, Saskatchewan-based. Like, they actually do have some gold properties and also some battery mineral properties. But, of course, when we talk about uranium, Saskatchewan's probably where you want to be. Of course, the Athabasca Basin. And their project actually is in a different type of geological setting. They're calling it, the Athabasca Basin 2.0, deposits outside the sandstone cover in crystalline basement rocks. And they give you this nice picture of the type of deposits that are found in this geological setting. And they're setting on two projects here, the Doodridge Lake and the Kullik Lake project here. Again, very early stage, and they've just done some surveys, I believe, not drilling at the property this year just yet, but that's obviously part of the future plans. Fortune Bay, I sort of maybe cheated on this one because you guys don't have a big gold bull. I mean, you can see the big deposit I have behind me.
Yeah.
But, these guys are interesting. I did chat with Dale and also Garrick at VRIC, who's their technical director. And, we were all chatting about their gold project because they actually have a gold project with resources, the PEA coming down the road. But right next to their gold project is actually a uranium project, the Strike Uranium Project, which is, as you guys can see, also near the Athabasca Basin there. Very similar deposit to what I just described with Searchlight. That's their exploration target. And they are doing some ongoing drilling as we speak. This project does have historical results that are confirmed, and they're also fully funded for drilling for 2022 on the uranium project. So a little bonus with gold, because you guys know I love my gold there. And then, of course, enCore, which we have spoken about in the past. They're trying to become a producer, and they're well on their way of becoming an ISR producer, which is an in-situ recovery producer. And they have, I believe, 2 licensing plants in Texas, one of which I believe is already, or it's coming online. So, they're quite an exciting play, and one of those plays that is a bit more advanced. So if you're looking for something that's going to be going soon, and of course, the U.S. is always interesting with uranium being a strategic asset and all. And, I guess Galen will explain probably afterwards about the fundamentals about why uranium is great, but those are the 3 companies that we are looking at today.
Why uranium's great?
Oh,
actually, Fabi can probably tell us why uranium is great to some extent as well, and maybe touch a little on the companies or a little on the sector, your thoughts and feelings.
Sure, no problem. So yes, uranium is great. I'm very biased. As you all know, I've been in uranium since, God knows, 2014, I think was my first purchase. And I'm happy to talk about these companies. I already was quite familiar with 2 of them. So Searchlight. Before we go into the companies, actually, just a very quick word about what's happening in uranium like right now. So what most people don't seem to realize about uranium is that when there is an oversupply because of the secondary market, it gets expanded. So when things are bad, things are really, really bad. Because of the way that conversion happens, it means that more can be extracted out of the same amount of uranium. And it has just come to the market's attention in the fall, in I would say about, maybe 1 to 2 weeks ago, that process has reversed, which means that secondary supply is now secondary demand. So when you're looking at the supply demand imbalance, you can't just look when it's uranium. You can't just look at, okay, we produce 145 million pounds of the stuff and we are using up 190 to 200 million pounds, right? It's not just that. It's the fact that there are more players coming to the market and that's growing very, very quickly. When the switch flips, it flips massively. And that's just started to happen in the market. So something to keep in mind, because I'm tweeting things out. I'm like, guys, we might decouple, and people are like screaming at me. And I'm like, just look at the fundamentals because you might see what I'm seeing as well. Okay, now going into the companies. Should I start with Searchlight? Yep, smallest one. Searchlight. Okay, so Searchlight. I've met the guys, I've met the team, seem to be like good people. It is a very high risk, possibly high reward if they can find something similar to RRR. So basically, Click Lake is sitting, I guess, just outside of what we know to be, the Athabasca Basin, which is known to be the Saudi Arabia of uranium in Saskatchewan. And what they found is that when they ran an airborne survey, they found uranium where they really hadn't found it before, right? And the showings look as if they could be something significant because it's a 500-meter area by 2 kilometers. And it looks like the discovery or something similar to the discovery that happened with fission with RRR, right? And so obviously this is very early days, but what the instruments are telling them is like, look, there is uranium here, there is radiation here of sorts. And so it's worth to investigate at least at surface, right? So this is very shallow. So at surface, they're gonna probably go up there this summer, look at where they're gonna drill and then drill in the winter. And it's kind of hit or miss, right? Because if they miss, then what else do they have to go on, right? They do have Doddridge Lake, but it's, the most promising project is Click Lake. So because it's so early, it's very high risk. If they hit something really interesting, it could go wild. But if they don't, my question is, okay, what other assets do they have to hold, the price that they have? So big question mark. Very high risk, but also very interesting to keep an eye out for. Fortune Bay for me was the biggest question mark. I don't know if I want to go into it or if somebody else wants to go into Searchlight first. Okay, I'm just going to go right into it.
Take a swing.
Okay, so Fortune Bay, it's bothering me because it's a gold company that's decided that it's a uranium company. And I don't usually like those, but it looks like their gold projects are decent. And I look at their share price and I'm like, there's a disconnect here. They're too cheap if the projects are legit. And so what don't I know about their gold projects? What don't I see here? Or does the market not realize that they have probably a lot more gold in the ground than what the market cap suggests? So that's the big question mark. Another question mark, which is very intriguing, is you look at the team. And these are uranium guys, right?
Yep.
These are uranium people with, Denison experience, with Cameco experience. And so I'm looking at this and I'm questioning it. I'm going, okay, so if you find something interesting in your uranium project, which is already very close to your gold project, are you then going to be a uranium project? And, I believe they're running the PEA for one of the gold projects right now. So when that comes out, are you going to try to negotiate your gold project to focus on the uranium, or is it the opposite? Are they trying to show some interest in the uranium, see if they find something, and then farm it out and then spin it off into a different company. So it's a big question mark, but I can't figure out why they're so cheap compared to the assets they already have in the ground. And that's bothering me because, when I see something like that, I want to buy. And
what it's worth,
right
when
now,
I chatted with the CEO and the technical director, they were saying the same thing. They're like, but I mean, take it for a grain of salt, of course. But they were saying, yeah, we don't understand why the stock is like this because it's not pricing in basically our gold asset even, right? So.
Yeah, and I mean, they have two gold assets. It's not just one, right? So you spread out your risk. So yeah, very interesting. It definitely deserves some more digging for sure. And then the last one being enCore is probably the one I'm going to spend the least amount of time speaking about because enCore, to be completely honest with you, is my largest win ever. So I started buying enCore Energy when it was 6.5 cents, when it was really just projects and management was doing absolutely nothing, but I knew the names associated with the company and I knew they had sold a previous uranium company for $1.8 billion. Oh. So I thought, these guys are not messing around and they're likely going to try to do it again. And so I bought enCore and never looked back. I'm still holding it. It's my largest position. And these are guys that everybody doubted that they would go into production. And you can see by the structure of the company that they're grabbing all the guys who are into production in the US and getting them to work for enCore, whether that's, because they are desperate to get bought out or because they're actually going to go into production is yet to be seen. But they don't mess around. And when you look at the management, you have to ask yourself, not do I like this guy or do I not like this guy, are they going to provide value? Are they going to add value? Sometimes good people are really expensive and we don't like expensive management at the bottom, but expensive management at the top is usually worth it. So enCore has really worked out well for me. Hard for me to sell the idea for people to buy it at 120 when I bought it at 6.5 cents. So I'm going to refrain from doing so, not financial advice.
That's okay. We'll come back around to that concept in a few minutes.
Yeah, there you go. But definitely want to watch out for it because these guys, they work at the very top with highly experienced people and they're not going to stop.
Real quick, stupid question as a transition to the smart guy that is Galen. How dangerous is uranium when it's in the ground? In other words, how about radiation? Once it goes through everything and it becomes this monstrosity later, what about just naturally?
I don't live in Saskatchewan. I don't believe it's particularly dangerous.
Can you pick it up and like gold and anything else and be like, oh, and play with it, or
I think so, and it's probably in small enough amounts that you probably wouldn't want to eat it.
Right.
But yeah,
if it's a yellow cake, it's fine. Yellow
cake I know is fine. You can
hey, down here in the basement, Gail and I will eat anything. So bring it on. Bring it on.
Basically, uranium in and of itself in the ground is barely radioactive, so it's safe. Just don't go eating it. Now, wonderful presentation by Fabi. Thank you, Fabi.
Thank you.
I only have a very little to talk about in this regard, and it's going to be more of a 30,000-mile view. The uranium sector has been stop and go for some time now. People have been saying, hey, it's going to break out, and it's just been stopping and stalling and stopping and stalling. And people right now are getting a little burned out and going like, well, come on, man, when is it going to happen? Now, Fabi has a good point. There is a tremendous disconnect, and there will be a switch coming pretty damn soon where we're going to see some interesting movement in uranium on the boards. And as such, these companies, and now there's other things that are affecting this in geopolitics. Right now, the United States, as of 2022, imported the majority of its uranium, from foreign deposits. This is not a great thing if you're trying to look at critical metal security. The majority of most of the world's uranium comes out of Kazakhstan. And we don't know where Russia is going to fall in terms of how it's going to try and take control of its regional satellite countries, I guess you could say. And, it's trying to do something in Ukraine now. Who knows? It might try to step into Kazakhstan and go, this is ours too. So the idea of getting domestic supplies is pretty important, and companies like the ones we're just talking about right here are at different stages of doing just that. And so if you're wanting to get into the industry, depending on your comfort level in terms of risk, these are some pretty interesting prospects to take a look at right now. enCore being the most developed, maybe in a certain sense not necessarily having the same growth potential as you would in, let's say, a Searchlight Resources fashion, but still enCore is right near the door. They're ready to do something. And if you're looking for something you just want to make sure you can park your money into and get a good growth out of it, but it's more like a long-term prospect, yeah, that's awesome. I think this is probably not necessarily the year, but I think within the next 5 or 10, we're really going to see movement in the uranium sector. And these companies are going to be, I guess, at the forefront of this. And it would be important for people that want to actually get out of buying NFTs and Bitcoin to actually look at commodities such as these and really start to craft a financial future for yourself that isn't going to, go higgly-piggly roller coaster on you and then dump you out on the street in 5 years. So there you go. That's my
That's two
rather
roundtables in a
unguarded
row
opinion.
with a higgly-piggly in two straight roundtables. By the way, I should have passed it along to, I will later, Galen. I saw a crazy NFT and a crazy Elon headline today that I knew that you would have enjoyed immensely. Just trouble all over the place.
Yeah.
Vishal, we're going to have to do some turbo charts. We've got Searchlight SCLT, we've got Fortune Bay FOR, and we've got enCore Energy EU, and that is all on the venture exchange in Tirana.
So keep in mind, what's been happening to the broader stock markets. Very quickly on uranium, because I know a lot of people ask me about the technical charts here on trading economics. We've been watching this very major support zone around $45, and you can see it ranged here for quite some time near the end of 2021. Longer term, however, because I love my long-term charts, as long as uranium is above $43 there, we're still in an uptrend for the long term. So that's sort of the key level that I'm watching if you are just watching the price of uranium. But you can see from the chart here, there's actually even support down at 39 to $40 there. And I won't get too technical, but let's just say that's the higher low. $43 is what we're working on for uranium itself. If we look at some of the companies, again, keep in mind what's been happening to the broader stock markets. Searchlight here had, on the day we're recording, had a 7% update here, but the stock's just been ranging here between about 6.5 cents up to 7.5 cents here. And we're just watching to see if we get some sort of breakout. Really close to a major support zone at 6 cents here. So if you want to be someone who plays that range, perhaps this would be around a good area to maybe look at entering a position. And of course, a bit more speculative, right? They are a smaller cap and very early stage right now. And what Fabi mentioned about Fortune Bay, it gets even more intriguing here because the stock is just declining. It's been, dropping quite heavily, 12% down days. Yesterday we had another 12.9% down day. Today a 6% down day. So the stock's been falling after it's broken below 50 cents and the support zone here at 45. The only bullish case I can say right now is if I take it off to a long-term chart, there is some support here at 38 cents, but it's not looking too strong right now. And we'll just have to wait to assess if we find some sort of bottoming pattern. But yeah, if what they have is legit, this is quite the, it's quite the cheap price area here. And then of course, enCore, above $1 still, and we have been sort of ranging above $1.10 here on the Canadian markets here. So, it's held actually quite relatively well given what's been going on in the stock markets here. And we had a nice 16% pop on the 7th of June there. No momentum to follow through, however, and we stay buoyed there above $1.15. So range developing on enCore and Searchlight. Just wait for a breakout perhaps, and a bit of a different scenario there on Fortune Bay.
All right, Fabi, this is where happy holidays. Happy holidays. I give everybody $7,500. You can spend none of it or all of it or some of it, and you can distribute it equally, unequally, or none at all throughout the three companies that we've talked about. You get to go first.
Okay. So I am a sucker for developers. and enCore is a developer. So I would probably take about 3 to 4 grand. Let's call it 3.5 grand. And I'd put it on enCore.
Okay.
So enCore Energy gets all my money again, right?
Oh.
Not all of it. And then from the 4,000 that's left, I would put 1,500 of that right now in Fortune Bay. And then I would wait for Searchlight's results from their drilling campaign. And then I'd make a decision on $500 to $1,000 increments. But I would be positioned today, if I receive this very generous amount from you, to make sure that at least, when you're buying a developer, there's pounds in the ground. And so you're participating in the uranium story immediately.
Very good. 5K. Galen.
I'm going to have to agree with Fabi on this. It's pretty easy to sort of. I'm a long-term investor, so enCore would be, a no-brainer to a certain extent. So I would most likely drop 4 grand on enCore, and then I would probably go 1,500 on Fortune Bay, and then I would probably go. Well, she has a point. I'd wait for results. So I'm gonna stick at 5,500.
Okay, Michelle.
Very quickly, 3K in enCore. I'll do 1K in Fortune Bay. They are doing that drilling program as well, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with the results there. And just because, as a technical guy, Searchlight is very close there to that support. I have a lot of gold juniors, so I'm just going to keep it at 1K here on Searchlight.
So how much is that total now? Hold on.
5K altogether.
5K. Sorry.
5K.
My math sucks.
So 4.5 and a couple of fives. Very nice. We not surprised to see money going out the door for the uranium sector.
Always
We'll
does.
be talking more about the uranium sector on investor roundtables very, very shortly on Equity.Guru. But for now, we must tell you that past performance does not guarantee future results, nor does anything we tell you, because we can't guarantee anything. If we could, we'd be the CEO and president of the world. But do your own homework, do a little research, make sure you do your diligence, because we can't guarantee a damn thing. For the delightful Vishal, the delightful Galen, and the delightful Fabi in the far corner, I'm Rob. We look forward to seeing you on the very next Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.